Okay, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Goes on.
And the beat goes on. All right, so episode 2, The Beat Goes On, directed by John Hoffman and written by Ben Smith and Joshua Allen Griffith. Now, I love this title as a continuation of the first title, The Show Must, and then The Beat Goes On. But I don't understand why it's called The Beat Goes On. And do you guys have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it has to do with Oliver's heartbeat.
Yeah.
Oh my God, duh.
And kind of
right.
a double, like, the beat goes on. Like,
sometimes I miss things and it makes me wonder.
But, like,
thank you.
You know,
yeah,
he's still
right.
living. Like, his heart is continuing to beat. And then at the same time, at the end, when they announced that they're like, oh, our podcast, like, they decide they're going to start podcasting again, he, pushes that button to signify.
Yeah.
So, like, the beat goes on with that.
And also, and he doesn't. He also doesn't want he doesn't want the show to be closed. And I don't remember what he said, but like his perseveration and he's ready to keep on fighting.
Yeah.
I really can't believe that I missed.
No, that's okay.
That the beat goes on. Duh, Jade. Like, I'm very kind of embarrassed that I did not. I'm extremely embarrassed that
Jade,
I did not catch that.
No, you are a super sleuth, and you're focusing on who killed Ben.
It was just a thought that just kind of popped into my head just now. Like, why is it called that? I didn't really. I have to say, I did not think about this a lot. But the fact that I couldn't put it together.
I think it's Sonny and Cher too. Yeah,
that's true. That opening line. Which was very kind of poignant and funny with Ben saying, when you're falling, all you can hear is your heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And like, it's been beating since the moment you were born and you never paid it any mind. And now the last thought that pops into your head right before you hit the ground is, I should have listened to it when I still had the chance. Which I loved how they set that up with, obviously Ben, as he is falling to his death in the elevator shaft. And then the line with his detective character in Death Rattle. I just love how good they are at doing this shit. Like,
yeah, it was beautiful. I loved that surreal kind of falling down
parallel
moment.
They brought us the surreal moments back to this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it ties into the whole theme too of kind of feeling lost and like out in space, like how Mabel, was feeling. And
Mabel.
It's beautiful. I loved starting out this way. So after that little opening moment, we see in reality, it's what he's saying to Oliver when they're rehearsing together. This is like 3 months ago, 1 month after the first table read, which is weird because he says we're only a week into this material or something. But I'm like, no, the timestamp just said it was a month, right? Because a month from the table read.
Maybe they're like focusing on different like acts or something.
Yeah. I thought it was just strange for him to say 1 week and for us to get that 3 month mark. But anyway, so Ben is struggling with the subtlety in the play in his character. And then we go back to the present when KT tells Oliver that the show is canceled and he's not going to take it lying down. And then we go to the opening credits.
I did like, was this part at the beginning? He's calling Donna and Cliff and he gets Cliff's voicemail. And Donna's, but you hear Cliff, hi, it's Cliff DeMeo. I am also a professional now. Just like playing off of the whole nepotism thing with his mom. That little touches like that, I think, are what make this so much better.
Mm-hmm. It's really funny.
Good. When they were in that rehearsal room and the rattle was in the dummy's mouth and he pulled it out and it made creepy. This. I was just like, my jaw was dropping. I was like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like, that was so weird.
Is that another, like, I mean, it reminded me a little bit of Silence of the Lambs when they pull the moth out of her. Like, anything that goes down the throat is really grotesque and all, but that mannequin, whatever was really, ugh.
There was a Silence of the Lambs moment in that basement, too. I got a little Silence of the Lambs vibes. Whenever someone's, like, trapped in a basement and someone's going to torture them in a weird way, flashbacks.
No.
But that, I just thought KT at carrying that dummy was fucking hilarious. And the way that they were, you know, fighting with the dummy, and then finally Oliver yanks it back and he throws her over his shoulder, and he's like holding her by the crotch, the dummy, and he walks away. And then just the way the dummy's head is like bobbing, just the way KT was carrying her, and she's all like pretzeled up in her arms with like her legs up.
So funny.
That dummy was really, they used that very well to great comedic effect.
That dummy's been through a lot.
Poor dummy.
It has.
I had a dummy in my house growing up. My mama and her best friend, they stole this dummy from a display. I think it was like a clothing store, a weird like clothing store in P-Town. And they were driving home and they stole this dummy. It was, you know, it was like a probably high or drunken moment. My mama she was having fun. I think like 8 or 9 years old. And they came home with this dummy, and her name was Madge. And we sat her in our living room, and she had this really ugly green sweater on. And she's just this life-size dummy with a wig and everything. And Madge was in our lives. She was a part of the family for like a couple of years. She always was there. Yeah, we would fool people into thinking she was real.
We had a ballistics dummy at the DA's office, and a skeleton that we used for trial purposes that we named Buster. So, you know.
Dummies are so fun.
Sometimes they're just fun to have around.
Yeah. I sadly have not had a dummy. I feel really left out now.
Gotta go get one. Get yourself a dummy girlfriend, boyfriend. They're great substitutes for just people in your lives.
There you go.
Okay, so after that opening part, we get Mabel watching Girl Cop, and she is looking at the picture she took of Ben's dead body in the elevator. And then she has this surreal interview with a dead guy scene about feeling, you know, lost in life. And this was a good parallel moment to the Tim Kono talking to the dead guy when his brain's blown out.
Yeah. I haven't talked to a dead guy since Tim. But I did like that they didn't show us, you know, like Ben's cracked skull and blood. And this time she envisioned him as his character in Girl Cop, completely put together.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny, too, how he was straight out of the 2000s. Like, he kept saying tight and sick.
Yeah.
See, I thought, like, the music that they played and their style, I immediately had, like, early to mid-90s sitcom flashbacks, especially with the music and him saying
and the girl with she had like the little like twisty braids and a top.
Yeah, it was great. I just love the way that they kept him in character for the flashback. Like, he was the Girl Cop character that Mabel loved so much, you know. That was a really cool touch.
Good. What was it? When I was your age, I was a 30-year-old man playing a high school senior. It's kind of 21 Jump Street-ish.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Which is classic.
No, I liked how we got, again, like with Mabel, we only get her in pieces, and it's usually shared when there's nobody there. So it's either her and her, like, you know, where she's just talking to herself and like in her inner monologue, or when she's having a conversation with a dead person. But we know that she's 29 and that she dropped out of college. She has no job, no place to live. But what did he say? He said she's a late bloomer like he was, and that, you know, don't waste it, which I thought was really good because, you know, if anybody is in that kind of part of their life and they're like, shit, I have no idea what to do with myself. Yeah. That it's, you know, it's not too late for you to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just find,
nice
you know,
reminder.
as someone who's at that same age, you know, in my life, I just always find Mabel so endlessly relatable. And I love to see this kind of a character. We just don't get enough people who are just, you know, am I doing the right thing in life? I don't know. I have doubts, you know, it's scary. It's like, it's a scary time to be when you're in your middle of your life, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's these expectations put on you where, like, I should be here. I should be there. Look at these other people. And it's like, that's all shit. That's all going to fuck you over.
Right.
The comparison game is...
No, you just don't do it. You just don't do it at all.
Yeah. Well, and
yes.
I do like to thinking, because I was sitting there thinking about how nice it is that, yes, like, Mabel is talking to this character that we find out later she had a real attachment to for a reason in her life. But that it's her kind of in her head reassuring herself and talking it through and being able to address, you know, that she clearly feels lost and the device that they, use to do it, I think it's just so clever, as opposed to us getting, a voiceover with Mabel walking with her headphones on or something.
Right.
Like
yeah.
that. Yeah. And the fact that we got the explanation for the finger gun thing that Ben did towards her at the table read. It was like their secret handshake and Girl Cop, which was great when she and Charles tried it later on.
Oh, I love that.
So good.
But it's just seeing Mabel self-soothe and comfort herself again in this, conversation with a dead man. I think it's so creative, and I'm just nerding out over the choices that the writers make on this show.
Well, basically. And see, this is a part where I did not mind Paul Rudd at all. I think it's not that he's a bad actor. That's not what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I just don't dig the shtick that he's doing here, And I get that this is a thing that a lot of people enjoy, and so that's why he keeps doing it. It's just like, it's a joke. It's a bit. And I'm like, I totally feel you. I see what you're doing here. And bravo for committing. But I'm just not finding the bit funny. Yeah, it's just me. I think.
He's much more likable.
Really interested to see.
He was much more likable in this
Girl Cop.
Yeah, than he is as Bella.
Oh yeah, episode 2 helped a whole lot for the Ben Glenroy character. Anything else? Yeah.
I was gonna say it wasn't one of our main points because it's kind of a throwaway. When before they meet up to go to Ben's funeral in the next scene, when Oliver is in Charles's apartment, that's where my most marvelous moment is.
Okay, so we see the trio meet up to go to Ben's funeral. Oliver's gonna go to talk to the producers, Cliff and Donna, and Mabel is going sleuthin'. So what is the timestamp? Right,
it's at 9:10 to 9:22, and it's right before Mabel gets there. And it was just the moment I think that caught me off guard and made me laugh the most. And Steve Martin's delivery as Oliver is going over, Charles not getting along with Ben, and he's like, I hope you told all this to the cops. And he's like, I gave him a long list of alibi witnesses.
I love
this. Plus a doctor's note saying I'm too weak to kill. And he gestures like he's stabbing. He's just like, ouch. I don't know why, but that sent me. I had to pause it. I was laughing so hard.
It was so funny.
It's just Steve Martin and his physical comedy. And his delivery just always makes me happy.
A complicated, but ultimately copacetic working relationship.
Oh, I hope you gave the police a better performance than whatever that was.
I gave them an honest statement, not to mention a complete list of alibi witnesses and a doctor's note saying I'm too weak to kill. Ow.
I do not have time to plumb the depths of your conscience. Donna and Cliff are dodging my calls. I have to convince them not to kill my show.
Oh, so now you're the victim here, not the man in the box.
All I need is 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes in a room, and I can convince anyone of anything.
That is not true.
I convinced you to get Paramount Plus.
No, I wanted that.
Did you?
That was great.
Hey!
Hey!
Can I come? Did she get a haircut? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
she's got.
I found it really funny.
It's like a shag.
Curtain.
I find it really funny too that in season 1, I think she was talking about how bad she looks with bangs, and so as soon as I saw it in the mini trailer, the teaser, that Mabel had bangs, my first
I forgot.
Literally, my first note that I took about season 3 in general is, LOL, Mabel now has bangs.
Yeah, it's like, what happened, girl?
And she cut her hair off in season 2. Yeah, you're right. Yep. Good callback, Jade.
It was the first thing I thought.
I love them. I love them so much. And Mabel, right before, I think it's as they're walking down to the funeral and they're talking to her, and they call her the glue to the Oliver and Charles sandwich.
Without you, were just 2 pieces of stale white bread.
It's like, that's when I texted you guys that I couldn't stop grinning. I was just this is so happy.
Yeah, it's so good. I just love to see the 3 of them together. It's like, give us more of that. Okay,
I'm worried that we're not going to... Sorry, you say that, and I'm worried that we're not going to have enough trio moments this season because of how many characters we have. I had that thought, just like we talked with Maisel, the core character, the core relationship that we watched with Maisel was Susie and Midge. And the first 2 episodes, I was like, I need more Oliver, Charles, and Mabel.
This is okay. So this is what happens with when shows do more than 2 or 3 seasons. When they get into like those later seasons, it's a great show, and then they're great because of the thing that we all find core. Like well, yeah, it's like our home base with these characters. It's cozy. It's like our touchstone point. And for Only Murders in the Building, it's this threesome. It's this trio that is just such great chemistry, and we all just love when they're all solving crime together and in their group, you know. Now that we're getting into later seasons, though, they have to do something different. They have to show us something that they haven't seen before. They can't keep doing the same thing over and over. The only detriment to that is, just like we were saying with Maisel, you're splitting up the heart. You're breaking the heart, and you're spreading them too far apart. Yeah, so I do worry that seeing how many characters we have here, that was in the back of my brain too. And especially if we are sacrificing the trio in order to get Paul Rudd flashbacks. I'm not going to love that.
It'll be like,
I get what they're doing. I just don't happen to find it funny. All right, so at the funeral, we see Oliver talk to this theater critic, Maxine, who we learned she was going to pan the show. She did not like it. And then Oliver is flashing back to another rehearsal with Ben as he is having a heart attack. So let's talk about this Maxine thing first. So Maxine is played by Noma Dumezweni, and I loved her in The Watcher. I love Maxine. I don't know why, I just really enjoyed this moment. Just seeing Noma Dumezweni, she's just got this voice, this presence that I find so relaxing and comfort. I could watch her act anything. I just really love her. So when I saw her as Maxine, I got really excited.
Yeah, I did like it, but you know, I think what was interesting about him is that, like, you know, he brought back the what did he call it? The tell from season 2, and that he's like, you know, I noticed when you close her book that, you know, she likes to play, and I saw that you closed your book, and she's like, I ran out of ink, and it was, you know, sorry, you're not always right, Oliver. And, you know, even though she wasn't going to publish her review, she wasn't going to hold back, and I think that kind of gave Oliver a little bit of a push, and
totally
gave him that inspiration of what he was going to do next. So I did.
She said the play just didn't sing, which was a lovely little bit of foreshadowing.
Yes, it was.
And I did enjoy that she thought Ben was terrible. Like,
well, that's right.
When she said he's putting on a better performance right now than you did your opening night, I was like, too true.
Ouch.
I was actually wondering about this.
I totally was like, yup.
Was he cast because, like, a publicity, like, you know, how they cast, like, big names to get people in the seats? Was that the producer's decision to have him? Because he doesn't seem like somebody that Oliver would pick.
Yeah, and maybe Oliver went along with it because he was, you know,
like, I got a job,
a big star.
Yeah,
because he seemed to, you know, be all in with him in terms of his acting. Like, he didn't seem to have many complaints, and he was kind of the only one laughing every now and then at Ben's antics. So I was just like, maybe he just saw it as he focused on his show being successful.
Right.
And not to bring up more Maisel, but it reminded me of, you know, Sophie Lennon really wanting to get her foot in the door in Broadway. And obviously Ben, who later references, you know, the kind of clout his broke theater friends had because they were in these off-Broadway shows and making their Broadway debuts and having, you know, this
artistic integrity.
That. Yeah.
Right.
And so I was like,
it was interesting to hear him say
him being pushed.
Yeah. It was interesting to hear him say that he felt like as an actor, he was lost in life. Like, he was looking at his other actor friends who were actually acting in things they were passionate about, and he was doing girl cop. But I was like thinking to myself, but you had a job, dude. You were in a TV show. How lost could you be? I was a little bit like,
It's like, you're a star.
Yeah. Which does make the Paul Rudd character, I always want to call him Paul Rudd, sorry, Ben Glenroy character, makes it kind of not make a whole lot of sense, because he is claiming to have all these hang-ups about his performing abilities and his personality, and he knows he's an asshole. And I'm like, yeah, but you have all this success. Like, you're a star. It just didn't, I don't know. We'll talk about it more when we talk about how Charles relates to his issues, his anger. But yeah, Ben in this flashback with Oliver, when they're rehearsing, we hear about, he says he's a phony, which is kind of funny because it's just my exact criticism of Paul Rudd. I just always get the sense that he's disingenuous in the way that I get the sense that Matthew Broderick is just disingenuous. Like, I never believe them. Even in these moments when he was acting better, this was Paul Rudd's best moments when he was being real with Oliver in rehearsal. I still want Paul Rudd to just be himself. It's just the message of the character, which is why kind of an more interesting part of the show, actually, and something I really like about it is watching like Paul Rudd play a character that I think is everything that he's feeling that he needs to learn. I'm like, Paul Rudd, you need to apply these lessons to your acting abilities as well. Just be yourself.
You must love Will Ferrell then, if Paul Rudd.
Are you being sarcastic?
Yes, because
I love Will Ferrell already.
The only that man is never off.
Yeah,
no. The only Will Ferrell thing that has ever really made me laugh, like just die laughing, was more cowbell. I'll always love more cowbell. Just watching him bang that cowbell.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah, I can appreciate Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd have funny moments. You know, I just want them to be themselves. Just just stop all the razzle and the dazzle and just keep it simple. You know, just sometimes every now and again.
What is it? You said razzle dazzle. I was like, was it death rattle dazzle? Anyway,
yeah, that's what Oliver calls it. Yeah. So anything else about what Oliver and Ben were talking about in their rehearsal? I just thought it was beautiful that they were finally Ben has his heart attack speech.
Yeah. So Ben mentions that he hates his voice here, and that's what Oliver says, that you only have a voice. And I agree. This was a really nice moment. But I think again it was nice because of the Oliver character, the Martin Short character, kind of brought out the good out of Ben. And that vulnerability out of Ben, because
and that heart attack speech,
awful.
Yeah, and that heart attack speech was finally his okay acting moment. So
yeah, he did a good job.
But all I have to say is it was really hard and unenjoyable to watch Martin Short have a heart attack. Yeah, I didn't like that.
We could kind of go over that. Yeah, that was really a lot.
Didn't like it. I get that it has to happen for the show, but I was just like, no, please stop this.
My notes just say no in all caps with a shit ton of O's. I was like, I know he's not going to die, at least not right now. They won't do that, but still, it's like, it's too real.
Yeah. Beautiful filmmaking, though, the way that they cut back and forth with that.
And when he was so moved by Ben.
Yeah. Clutching his heart.
Nailing it and clutching his heart, and then him clutching his heart on the stairs as he's having a heart attack. I was like, this is beautiful and I hate it.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it was beautiful and so terrible. So, okay, then let's get to this funeral. At the funeral, Mabel meets Greg, Ben's security guard.
Oh, Lord.
Who's also investigating Ben's death. And Mabel and Charles end up going to Greg the stranger's house to look at his files. And we find out Greg is a legit Stan fan of Ben Glenroy. And then he chloroforms Mabel and Charles and chains them in the basement. But before we get to the basement, what did we think about
the funeral? Greg? Well, let me just go to the funeral really quick. It was hilarious how they were at Overflow 3.
Yes.
Like they were, and it was the fact that like Mabel was a stranger in consideration, and they were all in the same place that Oliver and Charles were put in that one.
Oliver was so
pissed off. I would have been too.
Yeah. Sounds like a plumbing emergency, a low priority plumbing emergency.
I don't know if you noticed that Bobo was eating popcorn.
Yep. That was kind of perfect.
Yes, I saw the popcorn.
I think Bobo was really
popcorn
weird
at this funeral.
Oh, yeah. Well, I loved their exchange, too.
I want to know who Bobo is.
It's like, we need more about Bobo. But when Oliver is trying to figure out how to finagle his way into the prime seats in the church, and he's naming, the different parts of the church and the architecture, and he looks at Charles when Charles is throwing it out there. He's just like, who are you? The Hunchback of Notre Dame? Like that whole exchange when he names the architect of Notre Dame, and he was like, congrats on winning Jeopardy.
It's so funny.
It's like, oh, do a crossword.
It was so funny. It was really good. And I also like that how Oliver used Charles as a distraction by calling his phone. It was played Angels and Flip-Flops. So cute.
Oh, that was so good.
That was fantastic. And when Mabel, at the end, when Mabel says something like, are you okay being by yourself? And he's like, no. And they run off together. They have such great chemistry.
They do.
But I did enjoy Greg's introduction with the very dramatic, something's rotten in the state of Denmark. The writers clearly love their Shakespeare on the show.
Oh, yeah. We got some theater lovers here.
Hearing him say that with that creepy glare, like, why did she think it was okay to talk to that guy?
Yeah, she's like, oh, Hamlet. And I was like, all right, Mabel.
And he's like, no, Greg,
that was funny. And
it's like such a cheesy joke, but it was funny.
Buying immediately, no questions asked, that he did security for Ben. I was like, all right, okay. But Mabel,
I mean, I just gotta love our sweet little naive,
she's not
impressionable
that
little
naive.
Mabel.
Like that's why I was just like, what are you doing? Like you're so smart.
Okay,
you're the one who kept your knitting needle close by to stab someone that breaks into your apartment, like and tackle tie-dye guy. Who was following her.
You guys, do you see my point? This is why Kara is Mabel. Because, this is getting our resident Mabel notice that Mabel would not act like that. Yeah, I thought to myself, Mabel's supposed to have the street smarts here. And she's the most. Charles was the one who was
naive,
suspicious.
Unless there is something going on that has thrown her off her game that also caused her to get bangs and be kind of off, then I will accept it. But in this moment, I was like, what the fuck? Mabel would not fall for this shit. Like Charles would be the one standing there being impressed that he quoted Hamlet and then was like, yeah, let's go to your house and look at these files. And I would see Mabel as being the skeptical one. But it was funny.
It was.
So I accept, but I was just like, Mabel, you're smarter than this. Like, this is not.
Yeah, it was cute. Greg knew exactly what to say to get the two of them back to his apartment. He was like, oh, yeah, all those people, all these suspicious people, all the death threats against Ben. Oh, I got filing
that he hasn't shown to the cops because he doesn't trust cops. And I was, which I believe. Was just like, okay. I was like, okay, sure, that would make sense. But also, I was like, why would you not share these things with the cops if they're trying to solve the murder of the guy that you were hired to protect?
So I don't have a problem with this over the topness in season 3 we're getting here. Like all the characters are just really extra, but it's a little inconsistent with the Mabel thing. It's true. The more I was trying not to think about it too much, but the more I do think about it, I'm like, this is strange for this show because usually they are good at sticking to character traits and things. Yeah. I
will reserve judgment to see what happens maybe in the next couple of episodes if there's an explanation. But that did bother me. I was like, come on. But and as soon as they walked into his house and there was so much Ben stuff, I was like, oh no, this is a shrine. Like this is creepy. Yeah. This is not good. And then of course when
Charles the Photoshop
like,
pictures.
How come I haven't seen you before? I was like, oh shit. Like this is terrible. That was rookie mistake.
Yeah.
The realization, Charles and Mabel being stupid, first of all, going to this guy's apartment or house, and the realization that they start to have that he's more of an obsessed fan, which is funny because he said to Mabel about how she was like, oh, so he's like, yeah, about all those crazy fans and threats. And I was just like, oh no, he's one of them.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. The fact that he turns out to be a stan and all of the paraphernalia in his house was crazy. And so the props department, oh my gosh. What were you going to say, Kara?
Ben sent it to me. Like, I just...
The pants from Old Navy.
Yes, he was like, oh, where are these pants from? Old Navy. I was like,
I'm like, oh God. Get out.
How did he get all of this stuff? Like that was so creepy. And I wonder how much access he actually had to Ben Like if Greg will pop up at some point in the future to help them, maybe, because if he was that obsessed with him, I'm assuming he was stalking him.
Yeah.
And maybe he observed something that'll be important. It's kind of same thought. I can't remember which one of you brought it up with Robert with the T, Taubert. Yeah. Documentarian.
He's going to end up helping out. Yeah. He's going to get on the team. I wouldn't be surprised if Greg got on the team too. Yeah,
and they use, and Charles used Jan last season to help them with figuring out who it is.
They're not afraid to
use their resources.
Yeah.
To sleep with a murderer too.
Even if they've tried to kill them or harm them in the past. So.
Yeah. But that was really scary. That was scary. I wasn't really scared of Jan so much. Like it was more funny when the whole thing kind of happened.
Yeah. Greg with his kitchen torch.
I know. Wait. Before we get there, though, can we talk about his apartment? There were these posters. Did you see the posters? And did you see the big one of Ben Glenroy? It said Ben Glenroy as Papa Ant. In the Ant Family Adventure. This cracked me up because, of course, Ant-Man. Yeah. So they made him Papa Ant. He was the voice of Papa Ant. And then everything was labeled with the date and when Ben used it. And then they had this candle of Ben as Jesus. You know, those Jesus
I love
candles?
Those. I have a Ruth Bader Ginsburg one of those.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like the patron saint.
Yeah. Oh, but the Paul Rudd face on the Jesus candle.
That was a nice
and then
touch.
He had a female dog named Ben.
Yes.
I love that. As soon as the dog came in and he said the dog's name was Ben, I was like, oh shit, he is obsessed. Like he is not.
Yeah, Mabel's like, oh shit, that's
they are not in a safe space. Yep. Yeah.
So, what did you guys think when he chloroformed them? What was your thought when the fucking cloths came out and Mabel dropped and then he went for Charles? Like, what did you guys think at this moment when you were watching that? Do you remember?
I remember being like, oh, how are they going to get out of this one? Like when they, when was it Oliver and Mabel that get taken by Teddy and kind of intimidated and. The first season. Yeah. It reminded me of that. I was not expecting us to jump to a scene of them chained in the basement.
And then getting almost like tortured and pressured.
When this started happening, you guys, I literally said out loud, I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? Like when Greg just turns and chloroforms these two, I was just like, what is going on? So in the basement.
It's like too real.
Yeah. So before we get to the end with Greg coming back, Mabel's and Charles have these basement talks, where they, discuss Ben and Mabel discusses her connection to Ben, which I very much needed for this to make sense to me. I needed it to make sense why Mabel was so in love with this guy and why she was able to just kind of put aside, like we were saying, all of her Mabel common sense. So I enjoyed that conversad with Charles about how it brought her and her mother together. And they got over because
we know how much her dad meant to her. Right. So as soon as they made that connection, I was like, oh, okay, I can see why she's more forgiving.
I thought it was really good storytelling, taking something that they have really given us a long time to understand. This is very important to Mabel. All of season 2 was a lot. Well, not all of it, but a lot of it was about Mabel and her father. Right. So using this as a touch. And it got me a little more okay with Ben Glenroy. Especially as he related to Mabel. It helped me. This episode, like we were saying, it helped me to swallow Paul Rudd's acting.
Maybe that's why they released the 2 episodes together, just so that way you weren't like, ew.
I hate this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. Because I don't know if a lot of people would have come back for episode 2 the next week. I know. I could. If I wasn't so in love with this show and just a casual viewer, Paul Rudd might have turned me off.
I thought they did do a good job of keeping it poignant and light, even though they're chained in this basement, because
it was scary.
It was scary, but it still felt silly enough to, be be like, oh, okay, this isn't that serious. Because when Mabel's like, she's yanking on the chains, like around the pillar, and Charles is just like, you're not going to rip this pillar out of the ground. This is a pre-war building. If fascism couldn't tear it down, I was just like, oh, that's a good line.
Yeah, I figured that. I knew you were going to like that one, Sarah.
It made me really happy.
Can you please explain to me what Mabel was attempting to do to get free, though? Like, she was pulling all she was doing was pulling Charles's arms back, and she's like, ugh, ugh. I'm like, what are you struggling against, Selena Gomez? What is happening here? I could not understand.
Like, at least take your portion of the chain, or have you both, like, pull against the pillar.
It just didn't make any sense to me. No. When she sat down, she was like, fuck. I was like, what are you struggling to do?
But Charles was just like sitting there. He's like, what are we going to do? We're done.
Yeah, like, which, I guess it doesn't help to panic. The only way it would have helped to panic is if those were weak-ass chains and Mabel's, like, struggling all of a sudden actually broke one of them. But I was just like, Mabel.
Yeah.
Like, that is not doing shit.
Yeah. And I guess I'm thinking about it now with the Greg plot line. Before we talk about Charles and Ben, I think that the Greg thing, it felt a little forced to me. What did you guys think? It felt like there was low stakes with it. And like the fact that you were saying Charles is just sitting there completely nonplussed in this basement. Like it kind of, even Steve Martin couldn't get like worked up enough to be at all anxious or nervous about being in this basement. He was like, okay, give me the quick and painless death, please. Actually make that too.
That was.
It was funny, but I just thought it was like
dangerous situations. So I took it as like, they're just like, great, of course. Like, this is par for the course. It's a comedy. And, I can see what you're saying, but I saw it as just them trying to keep the tone light. And
I guess I just at no point did I think that they were actually in any danger because of the way that the whole scene was played. I don't know. It was just, I get it. Like it's just Greg. You're not really supposed to suspect him. He's just there to keep the cops preoccupied so that they think they caught the killer. We have a person, I don't know. The way that the Greg plotline played out, it seemed, don't get me wrong, I was enjoying the shit out of it with all of the...
I was just caught off guard by it. It was like, wait, what? We went from the funeral to them being kidnapped in a basement by some creepo. Because
we had to somehow realize that Ben still had his handkerchief. So the one in his hand or whatever was not his handkerchief. Like, I feel like it was just a very roundabout way to get us to that clue and introduce us to the new detective.
Yeah.
Which
Biswa comes in and saves the day.
I did like when he was like, oh yeah, Detective Williams told me about y'all, and Charles was like, that we were here? I was like, damn it, no. Like that. God, I love him so much.
I know. He's so lovable. Just a couple things about Greg. His last name is Rivera, and then he said he worked at some type of restaurant. So I feel like some of these things they're going to come back. I really do. Yeah. I think that we're going to come back to something. They're going to find him I don't know.
Him with that blowtorch when he was like, he doesn't think I'm good enough to be a sous chef. He should see me now. And when he had the blowtorch in Steve Martin's face, and Steve Martin's just like...
Yes,
like he's just trying to blow the flame out of the blowtorch.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Like it was very, you're right. Like there were no stakes at all. Like we know they're going to get out of it somehow. Like nothing serious is going to happen. But
it was too enjoyable for me to really bother me, like that they're because I don't think that's the point. I don't think the point is for us to really think that Charles is going to kill them ever. So they did a good job. I get what you're saying, Kara. They did a good job of like keeping it light for that reason, so that it was just there to keep the cops.
It was zany.
It would have been way too much of a tonal shift for it to be really serious.
And also putting in an episode 2, maybe that's better that they didn't have it later, because then.
Oh, yeah.
It would...
Because it was so obvious that they were going to be fine. And I was like, well, okay, obviously Greg's not the killer. Like, it's too early. And then, Mabel as soon as she kind of writes Greg off as the killer, I was like, yes, Mabel, you're correct. Let's go down this, line of thinking now.
And then doesn't Charles say, like, oh, look, we were about to find a killer. We usually don't do that till episode 8 or something like that.
Yeah, it usually takes us at least 8 episodes. And I was like, ha, ha. And there are 8 episodes in this season.
Oh. No, there's 10. There's 10. We got 8 because they can't, because it's a mystery show. So they're never going to give the screeners 10 because they don't want us to.
Damn screeners threw me off. I was just like, oh, but then.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But
I did love that. I did love that meta call out, though. I was waiting for it because they always have a call out to like, this doesn't feel like a finale yet, or like this, it's our second season. It's usually like the wink, Oliver.
Wink.
Yeah, it's usually the Oliver line.
But this is when Greg kind of has that throwaway line about Ben and how he got fired from the first ever TV show he was on when he was 8.
That was said at the funeral too. Did you guys hear it at the funeral?
And I was like, TV. At this point, I was like, okay, so it's Brazos, right? Like that's why this is happening. Like that they're mentioning this. He would be the right age at that point in time. And I don't know. I thought at least that aspect of it, of giving us those little hints, they did a good job. Yeah. It wasn't hitting us over the head with it, but
what do you mean the hints?
Just enough. Like the hints of why, building up Ben's character and why he has this animosity towards Charles and how then he tries to assert his, because of his insecurity and what he's gone through, he tries to then get Meryl Streep's character booted, just like he got booted. So I thought it was, all very nicely tied together without feeling like I'm being hit in the head with it over and over again. Because it just, I don't know. I thought it was good character development.
Totally. And when Charles gets blamed for him, he basically, Paul Rudd basically screams at him, like, you're the reason I'm an asshole because you made me insecure. Like not helping me like you at all. Ben
It's like, I'm going to blame all of my problems on you.
Yeah. And
like, all right, bro, go to therapy.
In this moment when they're having this argument in the dressing room, you guys got to see this. Hold on. So look, can we look at this, please? This is Paul Rudd's hair. If you're just listening on a podcast, please go look at the episode. When Ben is like in the doorway of his dressing room and he's about to leave and he's yelling at Charles. What is happening with Paul Rudd's hair right now was like baffling.
Some Karen
hair.
Karen hair.
It looks like a rooster from the side. I have a really great shot of it. You got to see this.
I assumed it was from his little fedora that he wears in the play.
Oh, Kara's so thoughtful.
I just see the little tuft right here, and then the peacock and rooster he looks funny. Like a cockatoo peacock bird. Yeah, it's pretty good. Sorry, I had to share that.
That reminds me too of more parallels with Brazos, and he was clearly so excited to be on the show, and it's his first show, and Brazos's character as this investigator, and he wears the same little type, typical fedora like investigator hat. And I don't know. I love those little touches that they throw in there. And I'm curious to see more of how this kind of rivalry develops between Charles and Ben. Because if obviously it was more back and forth than just a couple of times, if Charles was making sure he had a long list of alibis to provide to the cops, and he seemed genuinely worried that he would be
considered, especially because the blood dripped on his hat. Do we know when in the timeline that conversation happened so that was 3 months ago is when Charles and
No. What do you mean? Wait, 3 months ago?
When Charles and Ben had that conversation, that was the same
night
as when Oliver. Yeah. So then you're right, Carrie. They had to have more conflict. That didn't solve their conflict at that point.
Yeah.
Especially you could tell that Charles had seemed kind of genuinely moved by the performance he saw out of Ben. And as soon as he said, I can't even remember. He compliments him, and Ben like immediately
he's like, good job,
mocks him and responds back. I was just like, whoa, man. All right, there's definitely more there.
Well, Ben says, I could kick you out of the show if I wanted to, but I'm just going to let you stay here and make it hell for you. So, yeah, what?
It's like, that's threatening.
I'm not excited for this, you guys. I'm not excited for these obnoxious Ben Glenroy moments we're doubtless going to get as we flash back to Ben Glenroy. Yeah.
And then, so we know that he was the reason he got fired, but they also mentioned that Ben supported his mom and brother. So I know we thought, well, so wonder what's going on with Dickie.
Yeah.
He said he came on as a series regular to be a boy genius or something. That was his role. And Charles called him a phony and got him fired. And now
did he also say something about like, didn't you move your hands a lot or something?
Yeah, did you act a lot with your hands?
Like, instead of immediately being like, oh, I'm sorry that had an impact on you, he's like, I'm going to justify this. Like, I think I remember why you sucked.
Yeah, I know, Charles.
Poor
kiddo. Just so obtuse sometimes.
Yeah.
But I don't know, the main thing that I took away from that whole thing with Greg and Charles and Mabel was finding out that Greg took the handkerchief from Ben's apartment when he was looking for clues the night he died. So obviously that's important. And
when he was looking for clues and collectibles, he
was also there.
Yeah.
So clearly Greg has to.
That was such a funny night. I stole it from Ben's house the night I was there looking for clues and collectibles.
Just like, all right, man.
Oh my God. And when he was saying, confess, and Mabel goes, help, I was like, this is some great acting here, guys. This is, that scene was like, it was so zany, like Looney Tunes.
Special.
Yeah.
It was, but yeah, I think it was just there for comedic effect. I really don't think it needs to be taken, like they were trying to be sincere with it at all. So, okay. The end here, Mabel's and Charles then speculate on the handkerchief in Ben's hand and how he got that and how he, might have died. And Oliver has this Fosse fever dream. And then Mabel and Charles tell Oliver that the killer's in the show, and then they're getting the podcast back together. So I thought it was a really cool moment when Ben fell, when they kept, like, maybe he grabbed the handkerchief out of the person's hand, or maybe it was around their neck.
I love that.
It could have been anybody. It was another cool, surreal moment. This show does so well.
And I wonder about the handkerchief and how quickly that's going to come back up. Like, if that is going to, be something that plays out over the whole season, or if it'll end up being a red herring and leading us to,
it's a red herring.
That's the thing. Like, it's so early that I'm going to overthink it and ruin it for myself, but it'll be fun.
So let us talk about the most marvelous moment of episode 2 for Erica and I.
Yes,
our
agreed.
Fosse fever dream moment.
Oh, I have one on a daily basis.
We all, as we all should.
You need to reduce stress.
Bland, bleak.
Tell me about it.
Bleak. Just didn't sing. I never hold back, Oliver. And neither should you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take it from the top.
Relax, Putnam. You know I'm not into this musical shit. You're making a mess of things, Oliver.
She's right. You better listen.
Listen up, Daddy.
You got too much stress. Let it go. Yeah. You're a mess. Too much stress. The show can't go on. Stop. Please stop.
That was so good.
Okay, wait, you guys gotta look. These faces that Steve Martin is making.
So
please watch this scene and just look at Steve Martin. Just look at the way he is in in this little bowler hat like get up. You know, there's a part at the end too where he hold on, watch this part where he puts they go that like
it's so cute.
Like that hat up down. The way he looks right there, I was pausing and just cracking up. And also Will,
a genius. Like he is just brilliant.
He can do physical comedy like none other. Oh my god. And I really enjoyed
little effort.
He makes it look so easy. Ryan Broussard as Will in this dance number when he was like, "Listen up, daddy."
Yeah. That was cute.
Oh my gosh, that was too
all
short.
That jazz. I was trying to think of who it was. Anne Reinking, who was his girlfriend, his daughter, and who his ex-wife, who sang him that.
Yeah.
So I love that so much.
Yeah, oh, so good. Makes me want to just
get some jazz hands.
Yeah, get some jazz hands going. Watch more Fosse. It's just. Genius. I could watch these characters in particular do that all day.
Yeah.
I did like the reference, when the doctor's there talking to Oliver about his heart attack and
Dips.
He mentions, he's like, Fosse had like 5 and then Noah, is that I just had a blank. Will. I don't know where Noah came from.
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. That's the son.
Oh my gosh.
That was crazy. A Freudian, not Freudian, but just a slip.
Yeah.
A Maiselian slip.
A Maiselian slip.
Says something like, yeah, but he died after, his 5th one. And he was like, oh, you did read the book I gave you. That was precious. And his, Oliver, the doctor telling him, your BP is 160 over 100. And he's like, is that high? Yes.
Is high good?
No.
And then he has to change his diet and they mentioned the dips.
That was so ridiculous. No more dips. Like all dips you must cut out. I'm like, why no dips? There are plenty of dips he could eat.
He's
just not the.
They just had to say it for like dramatic
high
effect.
Sodium,
it's just
delicious
so funny.
Ones.
Yeah,
but his little. As soon as he told him, you have an arrhythmia, we're gonna set you up with, this thing that monitors your regular heartbeat. So when you feel your heart start to, beat irregularly or get out of hand, you press that button. And I was like, oh, there are gonna be some great moments with that throughout the season.
Oh yeah,
like that's gonna be very interesting, I'm sure. And of course, he's now inspired to do. Death
Rattle Dazzle, which is so good. It's a musical.
God.
Wonderful.
Thank God.
When he was talking to Donna and Cliff on the phone, and he's like, "Oh yes, I love you. Give each other a big kiss on the lips for me."
Yeah, it's horrifying.
Oh my God.
And then when they were like, "The killer is in the cast," he was like, "Press button, activate."
It is. I do like that they released both of these at the same time because it does a very good job setting up the rest of the season for us.
Yeah. I was going to just say the teasers and the trailer kind of, we're in these 2 episodes too. I don't know if I have to watch them again to see if there's something we missed or not.
Mabel in a wedding dress.
I think that's a fever dream or something. I can't imagine.
Because it also didn't look like her style of wedding dress. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Nothing about it made sense. Yeah, it didn't. Yeah.
And then that was the Matthew Broderick moment. That obviously is still
and we haven't seen a lot from the documentarian Jesse Plemons guy. Yeah. Tobert.
I would love to see more from Robert with a T. I think he's going to end up somehow with what's her face? I almost said Selena. Good Lord, Mabel.
Yeah.
That's the big question, is if they're going to get together. I don't think, I don't know. I would hate for them to always make Mabel like romantically connected to someone.
I kind of serious.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe they'll be friends.
I do think he will be in the group, though. I think that he's going to be like the new member of the Omid crew. That's my prediction, is that he'll get really wrapped up in helping them solve the mystery.
It could be fun.
Do you guys think that Charles and Mabel are going to find out about Oliver's heart thing? Because I don't think Oliver's going to tell anybody. Because
I agree.
The doctor said don't direct a Broadway show.
Yeah. There's no way.
But he's gonna.
They will find out eventually, I'm assuming, and I don't know if he'll have another heart attack or an episode or what, but
or they'll find the monitor or something.
Yeah. Because but I agree. Like, I don't think there's any way he is telling them.
He hides things.
This.
He hides things a lot.
Oh yeah, especially because he wants his musical, he wants the podcast, and if he tells them, like, they're sensible enough. If Charles, for instance, had a heart attack and was told not to do anything too exciting, I could see Charles telling the group and Oliver being like, "Oh, you'll be fine."
Yeah.
And writing it off. But so Charles and Mabel would obviously, I think, take it a lot more seriously and realistically than Oliver. Oliver likes to kind of, push things off so he doesn't really have to deal with them and deal with the reality. And I would, if they're going to introduce some sort of conflict between the trio, I could see that being.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. Possibly. Yeah, so that's the big question. And also the big question on the table is who the hell killed Ben Glenroy? So we know he's holding this handkerchief. That's basically the only clue that we have at this point, I think, right? There's no more major clues.
Pretty much.
There's just question marks. So, all right, shall we discuss who we think the murderer is next? Do you guys have anything else about the episode before we get to our murderer predictions? And the murderer is... Kara, you go first.
Okay. So I'm ripping open...
Rip that envelope open.
My envelope. Oh, Lord. I maybe overthought things. I wrote down a lot.
Jeez. I wrote a name.
I'm sorry. So for number 1, I put Dickie. And then Howard as kind of this tandem duo. So I said Dickie because he's the fed up, jealous brother who has always been in his brother's shadow. His brother treats him like shit, blames him for everything, blah, blah, blah. The cookies and Dickie telling everyone that, Ben will inhale cookies, essentially. I was like, okay, so maybe the cookies will come back, and that's how he was poisoned before the show. And being, poisoning when you look at, forensically speaking and statistically, poison is how women typically kill women, or it's a very passive way to kill someone. So perhaps a weak...
Someone close
poison
to them.
Is a woman's weapon.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, they're setting up Ben to be Dickie to be kind of meek and in the shadow. So I could see him, poisoning his brother. He obviously wouldn't be able to do it up close and personal. So I thought, okay, so maybe Dickie somehow gets these poison cookies in front of his brother. And then he is, miraculously alive, and Dickie clearly seemed so thrilled at the after party that his brother was still around. And then I was like, so maybe they want us to think that it's Dickie all the way through, and Dickie, follows him up to his apartment. They get in an argument, shoves him. But I thought it'd be more fun if Howard was basically standing up for his understudy boyfriend and pursues Ben upstairs, and they have this sort of argument and a moment where Howard accidentally or gets angry and shoves him as he's standing up for Jonathan. So that's why I wrote 2 of them down, that I could see it being Dickie as the initial, attempt to kill.
I like this. I like this theory.
He fails. And then Howard would also not be one of the obvious ones that they pointed out to have motives.
Right.
But Howard's sneaky. We know he's kind of mischievous, and he loves Jonathan. So that is where I'm at right now. And I think I still feel, after we've discussed everything, I think I still feel okay with that.
Yeah?
I don't know. We'll see if that changes drastically after episode 3, but I could see that panning out.
So the handkerchief in your mind came from which person? Because basically the big question about this handkerchief is, Ben didn't have his handkerchief because Greg stole it when he was looking for collectibles.
And everybody was given one.
Yeah.
Even an assistant.
Think that maybe Jonathan, he doesn't seem like a handkerchief guy or whatever. I could see Howard having it as like a token from Jonathan or hanging it onto him from, I think Howard then went up to, what's his face, Ben's apartment, confronted him about Jonathan. And that's how.
Yeah. I like it.
That went down. That's where I'm at right now. I also wrote down different names of poisons that can temporarily stop your heart.
Just in case anyone wants to know.
Dead.
For an hour.
And I was sitting there, and there were some that I will admit I know off the top of my head because of, for people that didn't listen to us on Perfectly Marvelous, for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, I was a prosecutor for 10 years. So there is at least a...
She's not like a weird Stan fan. She actually does it for a living.
There's a career-based reason as to why I know some of these things. But I also do enjoy murder mysteries and true crime. So there were some Agatha Christie. Yeah. I thought of you, Jade, like some poisons that have popped up in those murder mysteries and just in general that I wrote down as to what could possibly be in those cookies.
What are they? Are you going to tell us?
So there's I can't remember how you pronounce it. I'm going to kick myself later. Digoxin or digoxin, known like the more common way people find it, particularly in North America, is foxglove. And that is something that essentially, it starts to coagulate your blood and stops your heart.
Oh, God.
So that would explain him not having a heartbeat and being declared dead. And it's kind of a tricky poison and different levels of it and different doses of it. And if it's in cookies as opposed to water, could affect how the poison plays out. And then potassium chloride is kind of a classic, right? So that will stop your heart. And he was not foaming. He did have blood coming out of his mouth. And so that seems more in line with potassium chloride.
He said that was because he bit his tongue.
Yes. But I was like, what if that's also...
That's a lot of blood.
Yeah. Like I was like, what if that's also another way to like kind of throwing us off? Yeah. Because he was still... coughing and all that stuff. And then I figured cyanide and arsenic are probably too fast acting, although cyanide is pretty frequently used to poison people and arsenic over time in bits of food. So I was like, that works.
And arsenic and all lace is so hilarious.
Yes.
Classic.
So it is a...
So I just... Those seemed also very classic murder mystery to me.
So, okay, Erica, what's your pick?
Okay.
All right. So I like Kara's take on it, and I put down Tobert.
Nice. I almost
for the one who pushes him off the elevator, not the one who poisoned with the cookie, because I think I was probably thinking the same way as Kara, and it's the glaring thing that he was not at the party. The way he came in, he did not seem very thrilled with what he was doing. So there might be some motive about their interactions or their past, just like how Ben hates Charles.
Think about how big of a douchebag Ben has probably been to Tobert over these, 4 months of him filming it.
And I can imagine as somebody who's being a documentarian, he probably really hates him and can't do it. And it could have been an accident, similar to your theory, but that's who I was thinking. But again, it could be a red herring.
I like it. I crossed out. Yeah. I wrote topped Robert with a T and then put in Howard.
I love that, though. I think that would make sense. Or even it's funny, when we were doing our recap for season 2, for some weird reason, I don't know if this was just something I made up in my brain, that Jonathan did something weird.
Yeah.
It could be Jonathan, too, because he is the understudy. He said he was never going to be on stage, but now he's thinking maybe a Wednesday matinee, so it could also be Jonathan.
That was such a nice, theater dig. I'll throw you a Wednesday matinee.
Jonathan might do a Nomi Malone, down the stairs.
Yes.
That was a very tense moment. Jonathan did not seem thrilled.
Oh, no. So, Erica, do you think that you're going with Jonathan now more, that we've podcasted on it and you've thought about it, or are you sticking with
I'm going to stay with Tobert for now.
And you said Tobert was the person who both pushed him and also gave him the poison, whatever.
No. I don't think Tobruk poisoned him. I think I'm more along the line of the being two killers, where I think it would be Dickie who probably poisoned him. I think if we're looking at actually who really killed him, I'm thinking it was Tobruk. But I changed my mind throughout.
Yeah.
Because that's how I am. I'm with that with everything. So but I think right now that's how I feel. I don't have enough information.
We didn't meet Amy Ryan.
It's interesting though,
her character until like the third episode or the second or third.
That's true.
So
it's interesting though, Erica, that you picked Tobruk to be, because we know nothing about him. So you're that's a gut pick because you're thinking that's the way the show's going to want to go.
They glanced over
I'm
him.
doing it for They glanced over. He's one of the few, and he's the one who is not there at the party.
And I wondered too, like I had that thought going back, looking at the party. I rewound it and I was like, okay, where is he standing in the back with a camera somewhere? Like, do we not see him? And then I was like, well, okay.
Erica, did you see how he got a handkerchief? How did you say how he got the handkerchief if it was Tobruk?
No, I didn't.
Because the handkerchief is a clue.
It is a clue. I don't know, but he would have gotten one because everybody got one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to stick with my gut thought just because I wrote it down, and I'm going to go with what I wrote down.
Stand by your choice. I had not even, I was just thinking about who pushed him. I had not even factored this person, my guess, into thinking, is it the same person that also did it to him the first time? And now that we're really talking about who poisoned him or if it was poisoned the first time, I feel like I'm going to, because my second choice would have been Dickie. So I'm pretty sure that was Dickie too, but I don't know. I don't know that I can make the call on who maybe poisoned him. I don't know. Okay, so
who do you think pushed him?
Let me open my envelope. Loretta.
Ooh, with a heart.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, when she was talking about him, we didn't even talk about like with her tone.
And she and Oliver. She totally wanted to be with Oliver and with the playover.
Right. So, okay. So I know what you're thinking. Jade, obvious pick. What? They just are pointing us in the direction of pick. It's Loretta. Look at her. She's the killer. The fact that one of the first things we get of Loretta, actually the first thing that she says is, without so much as blinking, I would kill without compunction.
Yes.
So they want it to seem too obvious. They are trying, in my opinion, I think this show is going to go the red herring is the killer route. They're trying to put her in the front of our minds first and be like, first suspect, she's going to be the first to be eliminated. Her and Oliver are going to have a love thing. And we already did that whole, it's the lover of one of our trio, We're not going to do it again. No, you get Meryl Streep, you make her the murderer. And I can just hear people saying it in my mind. I'm like, that's what you get Meryl Streep for, though.
You might be right, but you know what? This would be the third. This would be the third woman killer, though.
Yeah, but what are they going to do? Like, so what? Automatically, we can't suspect women now. I mean, that's lame.
That's true.
Agatha Christie wrote a lot of female killers, probably more female killers than male.
Yeah,
and it's just with the looks on her face. When he came back in alive.
Maybe she poisoned him. Maybe she's the first killer.
Yes, I could see that.
Yeah.
And Mabel going up to her and being like, aren't you excited? Or what? And she was not. She was not happy. And obviously, like, she and Oliver clearly had this established rule that he would not date someone in his production, like an actor.
Right.
And she seemed very happy that with Ben out of the way, they could then pursue this relationship. So I could see it. I could see it being, we think it's a red herring because it'd be too obvious. And then they turn back around and it's actually her.
Right, because the argument against it is, look at what they showed us of her in the beginning, that opening montage. She needs a job. She wants a job bad. Why would she ever do something that would sabotage her opportunity to be on Broadway? But then we see her with Oliver, and it's like, maybe was it worth it?
He was the first person to see her and see, say, where have you been? So I could see her,
falling for him.
Attachment to him and him giving her this worth and feeling of value that she's been seeking over and over and over again, and her prioritizing that over this, Broadway debut where she's clearly not getting along with her.
I really do think that we need to keep an eye on Loretta, and we need to remember that if they're wanting us to discount her really early on, there's a reason they want her to put her so far out of the realm of suspicion, but there's something to be said about that. And I think that because they haven't done because Agatha Christie is famous for doing that as well, and it's some of her best work is when she goes, it's definitely not this person. These are all the reasons it could never be this person. It is not this person, guys. And then in the end, it's like twist, it's exactly the person that you were given a million reasons why it could never be this person. So I think that because this show needs to do something different for season 3, I think they're going to go that route. However, we could consider the Cliff Donna of it all. And I have a theory on that one too, if it would be them. I don't think it's going to be, but it could be like a producer's moment where they want to sabotage their own play for financial reasons.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope not. Yeah. I like Crimes of Passion more.
They overestimated or something, especially if they were the ones to like poison. They just wanted some like big mystery to draw people in and get publicity.
Yeah, that's true.
And then it's like, surprise.
We're going to make our own murder board and put reasons.
Yeah, right?
I like that.
Dickie would be a dark horse choice for me. Like, I think that he might have had something to do with the first time Ben got sick, but I don't know if he is the one to actually push him to his death.
I don't think so.
Do you want to hear my super crazy out there theory?
Love it.
Totally. Bring it on.
So, mangoes. He specifically mentions to KT that, he's sorry for accusing her of stealing his mangoes, and that it's basically the only thing or one of the only things he can eat for his super strict Cobro diet and regimen. And this is a leap. This was just for fun. But mangoes are very high in magnesium and potassium. And if you are consuming too many mangoes, it can, one, give you ulcers, ultimately, which would explain blood coming from his mouth, in addition to, him falling and biting his tongue. So that's one. It also can cause severe like gastrointestinal distress, and both too much magnesium and too much potassium can put you into respiratory and cardiac arrest. So I was sitting there, I was like, I would love it if
he had like mango poisoning.
Yeah, like he just
too much mango.
Mango cookies.
So amped about getting this, like the cookies are a red herring, because I was like, what if the cookies are too obvious, and that's how.
And it was really the mangoes, because that's all he can eat.
And so
he's
it was
like eating them aggressively. Yeah,
like nobody was trying to kill him after all. Like there was just some sort of reaction he had.
I like that.
And then somebody kills him in the elevator.
And yeah, Kara, the more you're talking, the more I was just about to say, I don't think that anyone killed him that first time. Yeah, it's got to be an allergy, because he's got all these weird food things.
Yes, they bring it up over and over again, and like
that's fun though. And this show is so silly that absolutely could be plausible, and they will do that.
Because they keep. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, because I know recently somebody died from eating too much licorice.
It happens.
Yeah. You
drinking
can get
too much water,
or
too much pineapple.
Yeah, some woman just died from drinking what was it, 2 gallons of water. She died. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's horrible, but it can happen if you consume too much of something.
Stranger things have happened.
So,
and I could see them setting us up, because they know that fans of this show are just like fans of the Only Murders in the Building podcast, are super into the murder mystery aspect and figuring out who the killer is. And the cookies were something they absolutely wanted us to notice, like you said, Jade. So did they want us to notice because they're actually,
a real murder
relevant?
Or
did somebody actually try to poison him via the cookies, which is a logical thing to think, or is it another red herring? They have just made my overthinking tendencies go into overdrive. So,
I love it. That's why I love murder mysteries, because it's just so fun to do this.
It is
so we already talked a little bit about Kimber. Just maybe she did it because scorned lover. Boring, in my opinion. This is going to be weird. I'm a little afraid of for how some of this stuff is about to play out in front of me. I don't even know what's about to happen with Ashley Park and Paul Rudd. Also, Joy was at the party. I don't know how she would have gotten the handkerchief, but she could have possibly have killed Ben in order to be with Charles because she's about it.
I just don't want another Charles girlfriend to be crazy and a killer.
I don't think they would do that. It's not Joy.
Yeah.
Guys, it's not Joy. I'm telling you
I know.
right now, it ain't Joy.
But there are lots of that's why that after party scene and the table read were so brilliant because it set up so many
the entire season.
Different motives.
Yeah.
Everybody
Jonathan
has some sort of motive.
He had a big one too. That's a big motive.
We also don't know who her is when Charles threatened Ben.
Yep. I was wondering about that if Ben, I don't know,
could be Lucy because Lucy wasn't there either. Although Lucy could just be off the season.
I think the way that we're going with this is he's talking about Kimber. I think.
But why would
when he
Charles,
said leave her alone, or what does he say?
Guy.
Stay away from. He says stay away
from her.
I think it's. Kimber.
I just don't see him being that passionate in his defense of Kimber. Like Charles is a nice guy, but he's also kind of.
Yeah, I know that's what I thought. I thought it was about Lucy when we just saw it in the trailer, or
that. I would buy him being protective
or
of
Joy,
Lucy, or Mabel, or Joy.
Yeah,
would all make sense, but I don't know if he doesn't seem to have much of a connection with Loretta, so I don't see him, making that point with Loretta. I kind of want to watch it again.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you'll pick up more.
Yeah, and see what exactly he says.
Stay away from her. I know what you did.
What if he's talking about Winnie? Or
Winnie?
Like an animal.
Oh,
or Sevelin.
We still don't know who did we ever figure out who poisoned Winnie?
No.
Was it Jan?
They
No, she didn't.
There was an article with, I can't remember if it was a showrunner or one of the writers. They said they intentionally left that as a loose end. So we do not know.
I don't justice for Winnie. I don't like that as a loose end. Maybe it was Howard. And then
guys,
Howard will be the killer.
I'm so bummed that I was just stepped away for a second because I was going to say, this is my only last question. Where the fuck is Mama G and Winnie in this show? I was very concerned about this. I was wondering to myself, what is going on here? Oliver, they made Winnie such a huge deal.
And Mama
G. And Mama G, yeah. I was like, big, huge, what?
Yeah.
I guess we're just going to pretend like they didn't exist. I don't know. The writing this season is making me wonder.
I know.
Well, maybe they're at Will's house because Oliver is very busy because he's working and he can't give them the attention they deserve.
Yeah. I guess I just want a word. Can you give me a sentence? Give me an explanation over here?
Exactly.
I was just very concerned for this. But I don't have anything more for this episode. Do you guys have anything else?
No.
I
think that's
it.
I want to go watch the next one.
Yeah, we're going to go watch the next one right now because we can. Yay. Yay, us. All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up for episodes 1 and 2 of season 3. It was so good. It was so good.
It was. Come back next time for our review of season 3, episode 3. Grab your hankies. And in the meantime, leave us your feedback on episodes 1 and 2.
Yes. Yeah. Leave us feedback.
Please do. Write to us or leave us a voice message and tell us what you think.
Yes, and we will read your feedback at the beginning of next week's episode. I think if we get too much, then we'll do it in a separate episode. But yeah,
Yay.
We love listener feedback here. It's my feed. It's crack to me. It's feed crack. That's what Paul always calls it.
Voicemails.
Yeah, especially voice messages. If you do want to leave feedback, you can email us at perfectlymarvelouspodcast@gmail.com or send us a DM on Instagram at perfectlymarvelouscast. You can also join our Perfectly Marvelous Murders in the Building Facebook group and leave us feedback there. We will be putting up posts for you to leave your feedback on. We've been getting some really great engagement, people sharing articles, and I want to hear theories too.
Yeah.
So,
and tell us if you're enjoying Paul Rudd in any way, shape, or form. I would love to know that.
I'm gonna post that video of Paul Rudd for you, Jade.
Yeah, please.
I enjoy it.
So yeah, and also you guys, I put my Instagram in the description all the time. It's Jade the Naked Lady, all one word. If you could follow me on Instagram, I'm trying to gain more followers. It will help in my acting career. Don't ask, but the more followers you get, the more highly regarded you are in the acting community. It's like it's a sad fact of life. So if you want to help me out, follow me on Instagram. And yeah, all the links for all of our stuff is in the description of this podcast. My loves, my marvelous ladies, I've had such a good time talking with you. And listeners, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, shit.
Sorry. That's just...
Wait. You should have done a Loretta line. It's me.
Oh, yeah.
Is it me?
It's me. Oh, my God. I'm Kara.
I'm Erica.
And I'm Jade.
Thank you.
And good night.
Storm's coming.
Doesn't seem like a night for roaming on the rocks.
Nailed it.